This is going to be one of those episodes that I have a concept and I don't know where this is going to go. so I sit around and contemplate a lot. That's my job. I'm a thinker. So if you look back at, I mean, there are a lot of doers in the world and a lot of people that do a lot of things, and there are a lot of people that are thinkers, and I'm one of those thinkers. So I had an old business executive leader. He was like my business mentor, and he says, "Listen, when you're working in a small business, you can have a different mix of people, but when you get to big corporate offices, you need," and that's where I grew up in corporate America. He says, when you're in a corporate environment, you have thinkers, you have doers, and then you have thinker doers. And when you're in, the smaller the business, the more you need thinker doers, and the bigger the business, you need, thinkers, doers, and thinker doers. And I just thought that was an awesome concept. Thinkers, doers, and thinker doers. And I don't know if I ever really escaped that thinker thing. So I got to be honest. I don't pride myself on the sheer amount of activity I get done. I pride myself on the power of the few things that I get done, that I accomplish. So, and I think this is where we find our zone of genius in the great book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Talks about your zone of genius, and when you find your zone of genius and you see the power in your zone of genius, then you leave everything and you see the joy in your zone of genius. You kind of push everything else aside and you stay in that lane, and that's where you're going to find your fulfillment, wealth, joy, your definition of success. You're going to see that what other people think success is, what other people think good is, that's not what's perfect for you. When you get in your zone of genius, you're going to find your fulfillment. You're going to find success, what it means for you. So doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. So when I was just sitting contemplating, the word that popped up, and this is one of my favorite words in the world. I guess a lot of what I do, it comes back to a word or words. And the word that I want to talk about today is margin. Margin. And when I talk about margin, it's not about, margins on the edge of the paper. It's really about how much space do you have in a certain area of life. And we'll dive into this, over the next 15, 20 minutes. But when I think of margin, here's what I think about. And I'm going to go back to my corporate career and what it looked like. I want you to think about the RPM gauge on your car. And do you know that space, depending on what kind of car you have, but where it says revolutions per minute, the RPM gauge, and there's that area that I guess maybe it's upwards of, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 RPMs, 1,000 RPMs. It's red. And that on your car, that gauge is a sign that you're running hot. Your car is designed, maybe it's a 3-speed, 4-speed, 5-speed, 6-speed, but it's designed that when the RPMs get higher and they get where your car's running and revving too hard, running too fast, there's another gear where the RPMs drop. And that's why you'll hear on, and I'm going to make the sound. That's why you'll hear, that's the engine kicking into a higher speed, and a higher speed means an immediate slowdown of RPMs. It's a bigger speed. Let's just call it that. And that means that there's less revolutions per minute running on your car. This is very vital and very critical to your long-term viability and well-being. Because when I was back in my corporate career, I was running hot, and I mean super hot. I mean, I was running in the red all the time. I would wake up at 4:30, 5 a.m. I would slam a cup of coffee, probably slam some garbage breakfast. I would get in the car. I would drive 45 minutes. I would hit the plant, hit the operation, have a morning meeting. As soon as I got there, I would dive into tons and piles of paperwork and data and facts and figures and statistics and metrics from the night before. I would catch up on the operation. I would have a staff meeting. We'd hammer it, the staff meeting for an hour. We'd understand what was happening. We'd set a plan for the day. We'd run fast, furious. We'd stretch ourselves. What could have been a 1 week timeline. We said, hey, we'll have it done by the end of today. We tried to fit, 5,000 hours of work into a couple days during the week so that everything that was on the table got accomplished by Friday. I didn't leave any room for any time and breathing in my life. I had a president one time. His name is Marty. Marty was awesome. And whenever you would sign up for an action item and something to do that needed to be done, he'd say, hey, when can we expect that done? And realistically, everybody wanted to put everything, I'll have it done by the end of today or by the end of the week. And Marty would say, be kind to yourself. You're already slammed and you're already running hot. So if you say that you'll have it done by the end of today, the end of this week, that means something that you've already committed to is going to fall short, is going to fall to the wayside. That means you're just setting yourself up for failure and you're just crushing yourself and you're running hot and you're just serving yourself up a big freaking kettle of shit soup and stress and struggle and creating all this pain. And, you're sacrificing your family time for work activity that because you're prideful and because you're egoic and because of unhealthy pride and arrogance, you're going to take something that could be done in 3 weeks and get it done within a day or two because you want to thump your chest and pound your chest and say, it's done. And all of it is just causing you're already running hot and it's causing you to run even hotter. And then we try to slam 100 hours worth of work into 40, 50, 60, 70 hours during the week, sometimes come in the office on Saturday, sometimes on Sunday, work from home, crack laptops and work from home. And you had executive leaders working at 9, 10 o'clock at night on a project across email and calling each other. And we were working on things and we were just like, it was all work all the time, all go, go, go. Then you'd crash for a couple hours, get a couple hours of sleep, probably forsake your wife and my wife and my kids and not be present whatsoever and get a couple hours of sleep and wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock and do it all again and run hot throughout the day and run hot throughout my life. And then I'd come home on Friday and it was like whoo, the week's over, let's celebrate. And then I would freaking fire up the booze and then I would hammer out, a 12 pack from, Friday night. And I'd get up sometimes and go in the office, or sometimes I'd freaking work from home for 12, 14, 16 hours, forsaking my wife and my kids. And it was just always go, 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 go. And, I don't just think that's in corporate America anymore. Because I also see that now that I've entered the entrepreneurial space, I also see that with business owners. I see business owners running hot, burning the candle at both ends, sacrificing any quality of life that they could have now until maybe, 10, 20, 30, 40 years when they're ready to downshift or to let the engine rest. They're literally running hot. And listen, when I'm talking about business owners, I'm talking about business owners that I work with that have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million worth of cash flowing real estate assets. And they're running hot and they're running fast and furious. Like it's a race, like they're racing against the clock. And I see posts and I see social media tags that, the people that are resting, they're going to be passed by. I'm like, what's the fucking race? Where's the race? How fast do we have to get nowhere? Like, the question I always have is, are you letting life pass you by because you're too busy creating something and getting somewhere, some elusive place, some elusive destination as fast as possible, only to find that there was really no destination and there was really no timeline and there was really no clock ticking? Are you sacrificing now for later or later for now? Are you taking time to breathe? Are you taking time to enjoy life? Are you taking time to enjoy? You want these things for your family, and you want these things for your wife and for your generations, and you want these things for whatever reason. Are you taking time to enjoy them? And years ago, I did a podcast episode on the book by Bronnie Ware, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I just saw a very close friend of mine do a video about that book. And the one thing he missed is that one of the regrets of the dying is, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. But he left those words out. He didn't say those words. He said, did you take time to go on vacation? But he didn't say that the regret was, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. He left that out conveniently because he's not ready to let that part of his life go. So he quotes the book, except he conveniently leaves that little piece out because it doesn't serve his story right now. So he conveniently left it out. What Bronnie Ware said is that one of the top 5 regrets of the dying is, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard and so much. And I wish I would have enjoyed what I created, what I had already created, what I had already achieved. And I wish I wouldn't have delayed fulfillment and delayed success and delayed enjoying life. And instead, I worked. And instead, all I did was work. And I built a life around my work instead of work around my life. And he conveniently left this out. I love you. You know who you are. But you conveniently left this piece out. I saw a meme not too long ago. It said, in 10 years, the only people who are going to remember how hard you're working right now are your children. And it's probably not going to be favorable. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we just celebrated my daughter's high school graduation. Now, I no longer have children. I have 2 adults who've graduated high school. And in a couple months, my wife and I will be empty nesters. We'll have both of our daughters successfully off to college. And there's not one thing I wouldn't give away, and I'm getting emotional right now. There's not one thing I wouldn't give away to have 1 hour again with them in their younger years, when they were innocent and naive and loving and accepting, and when they wanted to be around their parents all the time, and when they only wanted to be around 2 people in life. And unfortunately, one of those 2 people that they wanted to be around infinitely was too busy working so that they could have things that they didn't need. And it was too busy sacrificing now for later. And now that it's later, I wish I had now then back. because I can't get those moments, those precious, precious moments back with my children. The little version. These years are precious as well. But for all you parents out there, you know how precious the young childhood age is. And he left that piece out conveniently, that one of the top 5 regrets is, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. The word margin means creating space in your life. The word margin means room to breathe. The word margin means not just financial buffer. The word margin means going to the grocery store, going to the store and not having to look at a price tag. It's creating enough income, creating enough wealth where you don't have to feel like you're in a chokehold all the time. Margin is living a healthy enough lifestyle where you can eat the cake and be okay. It's where you can skip the day of exercise and be okay. Having margin is where there's a time and place for everything, but there's enough room to take time off. There's enough room to enjoy life. There's enough room to downshift. There's enough room to breathe. You wake up and your calendar belongs to you. If you don't own your time, you don't own your life. And margin means you own your calendar. Margin means you own your day. That nobody dictates your day to you. No one lays down an expectation of what you're going to do with your time. Because if you don't own your time, you don't own your life. You're a slave. You're a captive. You're a prisoner if you don't own your time and your schedule. And margin means not only owning your time and your life and your schedule, but doing with it what brings joy and happiness and fulfillment and freedom without running hot, without running the RPM gauge into the red, without having your body deteriorate because you're running, without having your health decline because you're creating wealth, without having your financial viability struggle because you take time off. It means having margin in all areas of life, not just one. It means spending so much time in connection with your spouse that when you need to tap out and do something else, the bank account is the emotional capital invested in that relationship has already been built up to such a high level that there's no guilt and shame. That your spouse feels connected with, loved, cared for, admired, appreciated, respected, loved to such a high level, and the emotional capacity, the emotional capital, the emotional viability of the relationship is already, the bank is built so high that when you need to take some time off, to tend to career, to tend to success, to tend to your health, that the emotional investment in the human being has already been built up and established so that there's no guilt or shame for ducking out and tending to a different priority, not another priority, a different one. Or not more priority, just a different priority. Margin means living a life where you can breathe without feeling like you're always running hot, or that it's an either or if you tend to one area, you're sacrificing in another. And so many people have built up that I work with, that I encounter, have built up such financial reserves, but still aren't taking advantage of the financial margin to manage the other areas of margin in their life. Maybe they're running hot, or actually in margin in their relationship and their finances, but their health is suffering. Or maybe their health and their relationship is in check, but financially they don't have the margin. Like, you can have margin across all avenues and all channels and all lanes in your life. And sometimes we may value one lane more than the others, and we allow the other ones to fall by the wayside while we tend to creating, accumulating excess margin in one area that we never truly allow ourselves to enjoy. And for me, success means margin in all areas of my life. Do you have margin in your life? Do you own your day? Do you own your calendar? Do you own your schedule? If you go out and make purchases, do you look at the price tag? And no guilt and shame if you look at the price tag, but are you running such thin margins or such thin buffers in your financial state that it's an either or? Are you making shitty choices in your health most of the time and just compounding that with more cake, more ice cream? Or are you making healthy choices 95% of the time so that the 5% are guilt-free and shame-free? Do you have margin in your life? That's a question I want you to ask. And if you don't have margin in your life, I would love a chance to help you create fulfilling, rewarding, valuable margin in every space in your life and leave nothing behind. If you've listened to the intro of this podcast, I believe we can have all that we want. I believe that we can have everything: health, wealth, relationships, success, all of it. And I believe in success without distress. And all you need to do is realize that it's not a competition. None of this is a competition. There's nowhere to get to, and there's no timeline to get there. But one of my favorite quotes is that if you're not having fun, you're doing it all wrong. Because if you're not having fun, that means you're running hot. Take inventory and see where you're running thin, where you have excess, and where you can create some more parallel margin, and make sure that you're not leaving anything behind and you're not sacrificing one for the other. If you believe you need to run hot all the time, that's why you're running hot. But if you can believe it all, if you do believe you can have it all, that's when you can. But get honest and get real with yourself. Upshift where necessary, downshift where necessary. But running hot is completely voluntary, optional, and neglectful.